Hey everybody, Mark over here at Twanger's Turntable. I hope you're all doing well. This finds you well in this fine afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you're watching this. Thanks for tuning in, one and all. If you're new, welcome. I hope you'll find something you'll enjoy here. You'll stick around and check out some of the other content that I've posted. If you're returning, I much appreciate your support. Thanks for coming back and tuning in, and obviously you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. I hope that will continue. And a shout out again to my buddy here. Just great merch they provided. If you're not familiar with Steve's channel, All the World's a Stage, he does a stream on Sunday evenings. So that's coming up this evening. And it is called Sunday Night Vinyl Confessions. Usually himself, Trevor, and Marcia P, as I alluded to last time I did a video, or at least when I received his VCLT. So check out his channel. I think it's 8 p.m. Central. I know it's usually around 9 o'clock my time, so they're an hour earlier there. So check them out if you have not already. The reason I'm here today is, as promised, I wanted to get back on this alphabet thread. So that's what I'm doing today. And I'm on the letter Q. So I've got everything in Q. I hope you do too. We're good to go. Let's do this. Perfect size mug, by the way, Steve. Fits my drink in there nicely. Before I get going with the cues, I received a record. I've wanted for a very long time. This weekend, I had pre-ordered it back in the new year, or just after the new year. Yeah, it was January, because that would have been the 30th anniversary of its release. And it is the EP, Jar of Flies, Alice in Chains. Fantastic. I tried to do a short with using this earlier, and it got blocked. Copyright strike, not a strike. I didn't get a strike. They just said you cannot post that. Do not have permission to do so. So yeah, I did a little 60-second short of Whale and Wasp, but the whole thing is amazing. If you've not checked it out, I recommend it for sure. So yeah, very happy to get that. Now I've got their debut facelift. I've got the Dirt vinyl, and now this EP, Jar of Flies, on vinyl. So let's get to the cues. First up, I got to start with one of my faves. I've certainly mentioned the guitar player on many occasions, but this is, and as you know, anybody who's tuned into my channel or friends of mine in the VC, I don't do rankings. I find that very difficult and almost impossible on bands that I really like. For certain, it's one thing to take a band that are kind of on the peripherals and I'm, not heavy into, and say, yeah, this is my favorite record. But then what I know of that band may be way less to draw from as far as their catalog. These guys, can say I've heard everything they've put out. And this would certainly be one of my favorites. It would be in the top 5 for sure. My bestie Jen and I were just watching a kind of a rough documentary of their 1977 tour, their rehearsals, their release party of the album. But it's very kind of crude. There's a lot of little pieces put together. It almost looks like a project somebody put together with the original documentary in there as well. But anyway, without further ado, it's Queen. And I'm sure you've seen this if you've been following this alphabet thread, News of the World. I remember when my brother got this, and I was blown away. Just that album art, primarily the music, but of course I was fascinated with this album art. I was just actually blown away. So getting this on vinyl a few years ago, I was very happy to do so. And like I say, it's probably one of my favorite Queen records. I know there are some, of course, like anything, there are some who, if they're fans of an act, or an artist, or a band, and they sometimes are more prefer their early stuff to their later stuff. And this certainly I would consider part of their early stuff. But Queen 2, Sheer Heart Attack, A Day at the Races, Night at the Opera, they are all within that top realm for me of Queen records. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. But I just remember when my brother got this, and it would have been around the same time because he didn't buy them on release date or even, I don't know, A Day at the Races, Night at the Opera, Day at the Races. I don't think he bought those when they were released, and I think he got them all around the same time. If memory serves me, of course, I would have only been 10, 11 around that time. And yeah, and one of my earliest memories of hearing this outside of my home was actually at my school, or his high school, his junior high school it would have been, because I think, if I recall, they won a basketball tournament. And it was one of the first times publicly I'd heard that song, We Are the Champions, played. And that's just a little story that goes along with my memories of that record. But it's always been one of my favorites. So I think most of what I'm going to show you here has already been showed at some point. But then again, that's subjective to whether or not you've been watching these alphabet thread videos that were started by Jacob over in Denmark at his channel, which I've checked recently, and apparently he's not a participant, or he's taken his channel down or whatnot. I don't know what the story is. I hope he's doing okay. But I've still been watching Jason Skills here. He's just finished up his alphabet thread. I think Kim over at This Is Music is still going. And there's been a boatload of others that were doing it. Scott over at No Solutions was doing it. But I'm going to see it through. I'm at Q now, and as I alluded to, I'd like to see it through. So if you've been watching those, you've probably seen all of these at some juncture, I'm sure. So the next one up is another one that I remember getting early in the 80s. It certainly came out, I think it was 82 when it came out, or 81. I'll just double check. Again, I didn't do much production here, or research before I started the camera. 1981, and it's the release of Quarter Flash. And I just remember hearing this, and at that time I would have been 12, maybe 13 by the time I heard it. I don't know if I heard it that year it was released. But yeah, it just always moved the needle for me, I guess, with the saxophone in there. And maybe it was one of the first times I heard that in rock music, outside of jazz or blues or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, just always been a record I enjoyed. And in fact, I found a single from that release as well. And it is the single for Find Another Fool, I think, which was one of the, I guess, singles released, obviously. Cruising with the Deuce. The other one was Harden My Heart, if I didn't mention that. I think those were the popular tunes off of there. Next up, I have a double feature from this band. It's the only two I have on vinyl. And really, for me, it's probably the only two I may ever have on vinyl, unless they were gifted to me or the like. It's not something I would go and purchase unless I found it in a bargain bin or something at the thrift stores. Who knows? But it's Quiet Riot, and they're technically their third album, but their first North American release. They'd released two in Japan with, for those who don't know, Randy Rhoads on guitar. But this was their first North American release, and in fact, it's dedicated to Randy Rhoads, in memory of Randy Rhoads, 1983, the first so-called metal album to chart in the U.S. In the top 200, and I think it reached number one. I don't recall. I'm not a big chart follower, but I think it was the album that actually ended up knocking off The Police. Synchronicity was this album, believe it or not. But yeah, great debut. I've always loved this. And of course, they found a recipe that worked on here by doing a cover of Slade's Come On Feel the Noise. So to follow that up, they did Condition Critical, where they did another cover of Slade's, and this one is Mama, We're All Crazy Now. But I just got this one about, I shouldn't say just, I guess it's probably pushing 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, when I first started getting records again, vinyl. I purchased, I've told this story before, but so at the risk of boring those who have heard it, for those who have not, I purchased a box of records from a guy at a parts store who I befriended, and this was one of the records that was in there. It was still sealed; it had never been opened, and so yeah, I was happy to get this. It's a good listen. There's some good tunes on here. Sign of the Times, Kicks Off side one is a pretty good tune. The title track is pretty good too, Condition Critical. I think the whole thing is good for what it is. It's well, I shouldn't say we. There were those who did call it metal back in the day. Um, I don't know if I was ever sold on it being metal. It's certainly hard rock, and of course, then you're maybe splitting hairs whether or not it's metal. But it's a good one nonetheless. And like I say, I got that one in a box of. There were a few in there that had never been opened. They were still sealed. So this is one of them. I'm glad to have it. And the last one for the letter Q. Some could argue this could go under the letter S. I'm not going to mention any names, but who cares? It doesn't matter. It's all about your own personal filing system. And it's the release from Susie Quattro. So I'm filing that under Q. Your mama won't like me. So yeah, this one I think is from 71, 70. Oh my God, I don't have my glasses. It's not that early. It's maybe 75. Yeah, 1975. So yeah, it's a pretty good listen. And I do have, I should have pulled up, I do have a 45 of this as well that I picked up at one of the thrift stores. But that's my Qs. Kind of short and sweet and yeah, I was going to do QRS in a video. I mentioned that in one of my prior videos, but I would rather just keep it to a single letter each time. At least maybe selfishly, it helps me spread it out where I can get more videos done without moving on to other topics. I see Mike over at MGK started another thread about albums that from the age period of 12 to 13, I think it was. I watched it last night, and I think it was 12 to 13 or 13 to 14. I commented on it because he was playing Billy Squier, and I remember that from junior high. So it had to be in that timetable. So I might jump on that at some juncture. I don't know. And yes, I still want to get on to Steve's contest, the push for 750. But for me, that's it for today. I appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. And I mentioned in another video, I was getting a new power book from my in-law. I got it. He came over today. We set it up with the help of my bestie, Jen, who's kind of our household IT person, if I'm being honest. She sets up all the networking and stuff. So that's pretty awesome. So I can have my screen in the background streaming without any, it used to be really choppy because my old laptop just didn't have that processing power anymore. It was antiquated. It was old. It was, it was time. So I'm glad to have that done. Hopefully I can do more of my own, maybe even venture into doing some editing down here, because previously I used to have to send my videos to my SkyDrive, download it in another part of the house because I couldn't plug it directly in. Anyway, I won't bore you with all that. Just glad to have it. And so going forward, I hope I can do something with that will allow me to do, I don't know, better videos is subjective, but hopefully you won't have to endure as many of my bumbling, stuttering mistakes. But appreciate you stopping by once again. I hope to see you again soon. We're moving on to ours next time, and yeah. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time at Twanger's Turntable, and I'll leave with a cheers once again, and a cheers. Don't forget to tune in to my buddy Steve's show tonight, him and Trevor and Marcia with their show here. We'll do that as an outro. Sunday night vinyl confessions. And who knows, maybe at some point you'll see me join them on there at the stream. Take care, everyone. Cheers.